Open Team Sheet format displays Terra types, abilities, held items, and moves, but there's one piece of information that isn't revealed here: your Pokemon stats. This means that two players using the same Pokemon can actually have very different builds depending on how their team needs it to function. Each Pokemon has a total of 508 effort values, or EVs, and each stat can hold up to 252 EVs. It takes 4 EVs to initially increase each stat by 1 point, with every point thereafter needing 8 EVs to increase that stat again, meaning you can max out 2 stats and have 4 EVs left over to add into another stat. A common beginner mistake is giving your Pokemon a nature that boosts their offense before considering speed tiers. It doesn't matter how strong your Pokemon is if it never gets to move. Instead, we'll start with speed as our first stat. You can invest up to 252 EVs in speed depending on how fast you need your Pokemon to be, using a speed boosting nature only if you cannot hit this benchmark otherwise. If you are considering running a Trick Room team, there are 2 schools of thought: running no speed or running a little speed for the mirror match. If you choose to run no speed, you now have 508 EVs to invest in offense and defense, but you may struggle to gain momentum outside of Trick Room. Once you've settled on a speed, pick either an offensive or defensive benchmark and hit it. This is where the damage calculator comes into play. Don't worry, it's not as scary as it looks. Use the left side to enter your Pokemon. I recommend selecting a blank set. That way you can enter your own stats instead of using a pre-made set. On the right side, choose the Pokemon that you either want to KO or want to survive an attack from, depending on which benchmark you're trying to hit. If you didn't use your nature already, you may need to apply it here. At this point, you should still have some EVs left over. If you chose an offensive benchmark before, see if you can spend these points on bulk and vice versa. If you still have EVs left over, you should typically invest in HP for more overall bulk, but some Pokemon benefit more from investing in their lowest defensive stat. There are special cases where you may want to optimize your HP stat because of grassy terrain or an item. Grassy terrain and leftovers both recover 1/16 of your total HP at the end of every turn. It's important to remember that numbers with decimals are always rounded down, so in order to get the maximum amount of health back every turn, your Pokemon's HP should be evenly divisible by 16. Citrus Berry recovers 1/4 of your total health once your Pokemon hits half HP or less, so most trainers will opt to choose an HP stat that is evenly divisible by 4. Another common held item that affects the holder's HP is Life Orb, which removes 10% of the holder's maximum health every time that they successfully attack. Remember, decimals are always rounded down, meaning a Pokemon with 170 HP will lose 17 health after every successful attack, as will a Pokemon with 179 HP. It's very common to use an HP stat that ends in 9, but as long as it doesn't end in 0, your HP will be optimized for Life Orb. Let's take a look at how a basic Focus Sash build could be optimized using chien-pao as an example. The first thing we should do is select a blank set regardless of the Pokemon we're EVing, so let's select chien-pao from the dropdown. It will automatically be set to level 50, have its primary typing as its Terra type, and its primary ability, but we'll need to add everything else. Let's set its held item as Focus Sash and assign a basic moveset of Icicle Crash, Sucker Punch, and Sacred Sword. At 252 speed EVs, chien-pao hits 187 speed. Since chien-pao has a base speed of 135, tying with Pokemon like Miraidon and Fluttermane, let's start with a speed boosting nature that lowers its special attack stat since we will not be using it for this build. Speaking of Miraidon, let's pull up the world's winning set to make sure we can threaten enough damage without an attack boosting nature. Since Focus Sash allows chien-pao to survive one attack from full health, we can afford to invest 252 EVs into attack. As long as Icicle Crash hits, we will always knock out Miraidon with our current spread. Even if Miraidon uses a defensive Terra, it is still a 2-hit knockout, and since chien-pao is always faster outside of Trick Room, we will be able to attack twice. If using Icicle Crash makes you nervous, you can run Ice Spinner, but we would have to use an adamant nature to guarantee the same rolls at the cost of potentially speed tying max speed modest Miraidon. Next, I want to choose a defensive benchmark, so we'll add Rapid Strike Urshifu on the right side. Since we are looking at defensive calcs, I'm going to give Urshifu an attack boosting nature and max out its attack with 252 EVs. This is the strongest that it can possibly be without other modifiers, such as a damage boosting item or Terra. Close combat is always a guaranteed one-hit knockout, but since we are using Focus Sash as our held item, the opponent will need to hit us more than once to successfully remove chien-pao from the field, so let's look at Surging Strikes instead. We currently have a small roll to be knocked out, meaning there's a good chance a few EVs can fix this problem. Adding 4 EVs to HP leaves us with the same roll, but what if we place that into defense instead? Now Surging Strikes is a guaranteed 2-hit knockout as long as they cannot further increase their damage output, meaning we can make better informed decisions during gameplay depending on the opposing Urshifu's held item and Terra type. There are other special cases, such as optimizing HP for Citrus Berry, but we'll look at more complex examples next time. If you found this information helpful and you enjoy this type of content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.